Non-Brits, what are your questions for British people? Does Arsenal actually always try and walk it in? Well, did you see that ludicrous display last night? What was Wenger thinking, sending Walcott on that early? How do you pronounce Worcestershire correctly? Worcestershire. Worcestershire. I live in the north part, so non-Arctic. What do you think about non-Brits being invested/interested in the Royals? Are you invested/interested? I care about the Royals as much as they care about me, not at all. My go-to answer. What do you think about the differences between Britain English and America English? Honestly, the only thing I don't like about it is that my phone likes to autocorrect to the America English version of what I type. Besides that, I don't care. You do you. I'd imagine that's a setting you can change. If you go to your keyboard or autocorrect settings, you may be able to change from American English to whatever other English locale you prefer. Do you get mad when a website uses cookies instead of biscuits? We have cookies too. All cookies, physical ones at least, are biscuits, but not all biscuits are cookies. Wait, what makes a biscuit a cookie then? Is it true that Milton Keynes has a lot of roundabouts? Neil Gaiman quote, note for Americans and other aliens, Milton Keynes is a new city approximately halfway between London and Birmingham. It was built to be modern, efficient, healthy, and, all in all, a pleasant place to live. Many Britons find this amusing. Looks more like a Terry Pratchett quote to me, but I don't know who wrote each specific quote from that book. Would you please come collect James Corden? Keep him. His citizenship has been revoked for the good of the country. Oh, no thank you. We couldn't possibly. We are still on the phone with Canada to get Bieber. How is Europe? Mixed. Some of it's nice. Some of it isn't. Most of it's pretty nice compared to most places in the world though. Can you ask for vinegar at a fish and chip shop? British person once put vinegar on their chips near me, and I was so freaking confused and flabbergasted. Oops. Also, is chicken salt a thing over there, or is it just an Aussie thing? They'll usually ask you if you want salt and vinegar on your chips. Yeah. Salt and vinegar crisps are also very popular here. Not sure if they are as much in other countries. Is it delicious that way? I know salt and vinegar crisps are really tasty, and I think that they are an acquired taste for some. My question is, how do you enjoy living where you do? What are your favorite parts? I live on the outskirts of Manchester in the hills, so when it's sunset or sunrise I get a great view over several miles of fields and great scenery. Also from the greater Manchester area. Hills are buggers, but the sunsets can be spectacular. Is wanker a legitimate insult, or is it used ironically? I can't imagine calling someone a wanker with anger in my heart. It entirely depends on the situation and how you say it. With a mate who drops a pint, it's a good-natured ribbing. The guy that cuts you off in traffic, it's a legitimate insult. I think 90% of shouting wanker is induced by traffic, and that's how my 8-year-old learnt a new word last week. When is it appropriate to add milk to tea? If the tea is brewed separately in a teapot, milk can go in the cup first. If you're brewing the tea in the cup and you add milk first, you're a first-rate psychopath. How would that even work? The milk would instantly lower the temp of the water before the tea could steep. I have recently tried Yorkshire Gold tea. It is amazing. But I don't have a good method for straining out the leaves, and then my tea is oversteeped. Is there a back brand tea that is good? Get a loose tea infuser. Put the tea in the mesh ball or tube. Add infuser to appropriate temp water for set time. Remove and drink. Oh, thank you for this suggestion. I have never seen one, but I just looked them up. We mainly drink coffee in our home, so tea paraphernalia is new to me entirely. Thanks so much. What is a luxury item you have or would love to have? A good prime minister. Just an average one would do right about now. Why did you send my ancestors to this place? It isn't so bad down here, but let's be honest, drop bear attacks scare me to death. My cousin was killed in a drop bear attack. Magpies aren't great either, but they aren't as lethal. Shouldn't have stolen a half shilling from the governor then. But sir, I needed a loaf of bread to feed my 7 kids. In this era of COVID, why haven't you wrapped your national treasure, Stephen Fry, in cotton wool and bubble wrap for safekeeping? We are too busy protecting David Attenborough. Tell that to Boris who sat next to him without bothering to wear a mask. Why do you ask you alright? And then walk away without waiting for the answer? That's as confusing as US prices without taxes. It's just hi. I'm not looking to start a conversation, just saying hi as we pass. How much is your gas right now? Greetings from Germany. Frick me, that question is sus as frick. As an American it took me a while to figure out. Then it hit me you'll call gasoline petrol, and I almost launched out of my chair. What's your favorite stereotype? That all villains in films need to be British because we're so evil. I'm from Texas, and I firmly believe this is because villains are typically smart, and being the dumb Americans that we are, we associate having an accent with intelligence. You what mate? Sorry, are you looking to start a fight? Leave it out, you two. He's not worth it. What you'll think of us crims down under? I hear that Aussies call each other pricks as a show of affection, so I think you are all pricks. Now we usually call each other idiots, and that can mean a lot of things. Like when I say I like that idiot in the thong. It means something very different when said in Australia than it does in America. What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? African or European? Well, I don't know. Stereotypical question incoming. Do you like tea, and what brand do you recommend? I buy pretty expensive loose tea because supermarket tea bags in Germany always taste extremely bitter and barely like tea at all. That's why most Germans think black tea is gross. Good tea in bags is extremely expensive, but I want to brew a fresh cup of tea at work without having to clean my filter. If you are getting a branded tea it has to be Yorkshire tea. I would recommend finding some Assam tea bags. I prefer the stronger taste. Why do you guys have such amazing sense of humor? Stephen Fry on YouTube makes some very good points on the differences between US and UK humor. Broadly speaking, Americans tend to be optimistic about everything. Us Brits, pretty much the opposite. Our jokes end up being relatable because we agree everything crap or ridiculous in some way. In one video, he describes a scene in which a guy's playing guitar badly at a party and someone eventually grabs his guitar and smashes it. He says in an American comedy film the protagonist would likely be the wisecracking guy who breaks the guitar, and in a British comedy film, the protagonist would be the idiot playing guitar badly. I thought that was an interesting observation and rings true in my experience. Since British people call it a lift and Americans call it an elevator, do Brits feel like they are raised differently from their American counterparts? We start from the ground floor. You start from the first. It's the extra struggle which gives us character. So will we ever get our stuff back from your museums? I don't think so. We are still looking at it. Feel free to come over, have a look yourselves. Look familiar? Stay behind the rope. How come Rule Britannia is such a good song but your anthem, at least in my opinion, sucks this much? We needed a song that would match the weather. Ouch. So in America and many of the places I've visited, British lads and lasses for that matter are considered primo, as if just being British makes you automatically more hot somehow. I should ask why that is and see if I can emulate, but honestly I'm more interested to know if there's a place that Brits think being from adds an automatic 6 points to the hotness scale. French, Spanish and Italian people are typically seen as sexy and passionate. There is a stereotype of the hot Swedish blonde and to be honest it extends to most of the rest of Scandinavia. Recent experience of immigration has shown us the talent pool available in Poland and Eastern Europe. The Icelandic accent is very attractive if you ever hear it in person. Is hanging on in quiet desperation really the English way? Yes. What do you think of muggles? We don't mind them. If they are hungry we will feed them. You deserve an award for this generosity. My mom's boyfriend is from England and says that if you look at a stranger too long they'll assume you want to fight and not a friendly gesture of hello. It's this true/normal? Very much a thing. Because why are you staring? What do British people honestly think about tea and biscuits? It's kind of the standard basic catering for visitors, meetings or social events. That is if someone comes round your house they get offered tea and a biscuit. Cake would be considered an upgrade. At any meeting, Tea and biscuits should be available at a bare minimum. It's kind of the baseline of hospitality, and it's weird when someone doesn't have any tea available, and by tea I mean black, unflavored tea served with milk and optional sugar. Or, heaven forbid, only decaf tea. Blag. In Yorkshire, almost everywhere has a brand called Yorkshire tea which is particularly strong and full flavored, and brews in about 2 minutes, pretty quick. Is it like coffee in other countries? Like if someone visits you, you offer them a cup of tea. Is coffee even such a huge thing in England, like in coffee countries? Who really researched thoroughly the actual implications of Brexit by themselves before voting for it? It certainly wasn't the Leave or Remain parties. How are your curse words so much better than Americans? Because we can use them freely without public disdain. Yeah, cheeky idiot. Let me sum up most questions for you. 1. No, we don't have bad teeth. We have good dental care. 2. No, we don't like Brexit. We are still trying to figure out why people voted for it too. 3. Yes, we know we colonized half the planet. We aren't proud of it, but it's also not the current population's fault. 4. Tea is drank quite a lot, maybe not as much as portrayed. Tea bag, water, milk. 5. Yes, we eat beans on toast. It's freaking lot. 6. Okay, so Britain is made up of England, Wales, and Scotland. The United Kingdom is made up of Britain plus Northern Ireland. 7. The common idea of the English accent only refers to a specific place in England, not to the rest of us. 8. IDKY our food's bland. I like it. 9. You're not getting your crap back. We like them. You can come look at them though. Seriously, guillotines are super cheap. What's stopping you? Our royal family is purely for tourism. Do you revel in your great history or lament it? Our history is something everyone in Britain should be aware of, and most people who do would probably say both. There's some awesome stuff to be proud of, but there's also a lot of terrible things we have done, and it's very important we remember and learn from these. Frickin' nailed it. British history is gloriously complex. There's a lot of good, right next to a lot of bad. Steam engines? Good. Forcing kids to work in mines? Bad. Good sailing ships? Good. Fighting everyone we met? Bad. Do you judge other British people based on their accent? Absolutely. Sorry, people of Essex. Alright, I'm gonna talk about why most British people complain when it's 27 degrees Celsius inside. It's because their walls are supposed to be holding as much heat as possible for the winter. Images sitting in your room with 27 degrees outside, and you have the air conditioning on 30 degrees of heat, and you lost the controller. It's the same for British people, but it's inside of the walls, and you can't change that by yourself or someone who is a non-professional. We can't escape the heat. People don't tend to realize that. Plus we are not really used to anything over about 25 degrees, so once it goes over that we just start melting. Also, Sweden seems cool, Minecraft is nice, and your houses in AoE 3 are pretty neat. Must be annoying being on an island that isn't a tropical paradise. An island with free healthcare is a paradise. A wet paradise is still technically a paradise. How do you manage to wash your hands with the 2-tap system? The hot water is too hot, while the cold water is too cold. I find myself constantly switching from one tap to the other, but it is such a chore. Stiff upper lip. Any castles available? Castles? In this economy? What are you mad? We've switched to garden sheds now. They are much cheaper. Do cashiers there get to sit down? How important is tea to you? Yes, cashiers sit down. I've never seen a reason for them to stand. Tea is popular, but certainly gets overplayed for comedic effect. Do they really like having their washing machine in their kitchen? Do they also have a dishwasher there as well? I don't like having it in the kitchen as the kitchen is right next to my living room, but I don't have space for it to go anywhere else. Same goes for 4/5 Brits. Was Brexit a good idea or not? No. Have you had spotted bean? I can legitimately say the sentence Jason Statham ate my spotted bean. That is genuinely the most baddest bragging right I have ever heard. Earl Grey or English breakfast? You must pick one. English breakfast all day long. Earl Grey tasted like dishwater to me. Why is there just so much music that comes from the island and most of it really very good? I mean, it's incredible the stuff that comes from GB over the years. It's out there on its own. Why is that? We're a densely populated first world country. Why do you think a carpeted floor in the bathroom is a good idea? It's a great way to introduce biodiversity to your house. Do you guys actually say scrap when referring to fighting? Yup. If you lose, you have been duffed up. Why do your best TV shows only have 18 episodes? Because they are traditionally produced with much smaller budgets than US shows. They normally have a much smaller team of writers, sometimes only 2 or 3, and no showrunners. Do you guys still use the accent when no one is looking? No, you didn't hear it from me, but we secretly convert to fluent Geonosian when not being observed. Say, water. To pronounce it waha would be very South London. You'll find it pronounced water in Birmingham and water in Liverpool. The UK has a lot of regional dialects. And water. How does public school work? Like, what grade/ages count as primary vs secondary? In the US, elementary school is ages roughly 4, 10, middle school is roughly 11, 14, and high school is roughly 15, 18. What are the main classes everyone needs to take to graduate, beyond things like math, science, and history? What languages do you get to choose from, if/when you start learning a new language? Also, do all schools really have houses, or is it just private/boarding schools, and how does that work? I didn't find out until about 2 years ago that this was a real thing, and not just a Harry Potter thing. Before school there is nursery, what you call kindergarten, and then school starts with the year FS2, short for foundation stage 2. Then, you start year 1, which is for 5, 6-year-olds. Then, it goes up in years, year 2, year 3, etc. Primary school finishes at year 6, 10, 11, and secondary school starts at year 7, 11, 12, and finishes at year 11th. 15, 16. Years are one number higher than grades in America, so year 9 in England and Wales would be grade 8 in the USA. Secondary school finishes at the end of year 11th, or what would be sophomore grade in America. You can either do 6th form or college. In English schools, the core subjects are English, maths, and science, which you have to do for your GCSE, final exam in school. You can also choose additional subjects such as French, geography, and history. I'm not too sure on the system in Scotland and Northern Ireland, but I know they differ slightly. When did FS2 happen? I always knew it as reception, although admittedly my son is 14 now. What is up with all of these comedian panel shows? I feel like there are 20, and they have the same rotating cast between them all. They're popular and cheap to make. Do you like Arctic Monkeys? Arctic Monkeys are one of the most influential UK bands of the last few decades. They're mostly known in the States for their much slower 2013 album AM, but in the UK they are largely known for their aggressive albums with witty lyrics from the noughties, like Whatever People Say I Am, That's What I'm Not, and Favorite Worst Nightmare. So, yes. I lived in London for 9 years, and was always an immigrant. Why do Brits living in other countries insist in being called expats? They don't like the word immigrant applied to them? Basically, yes. It's a horrible sense of superiority that the majority of us can't stand. American asking, only ask to wonder if any of that is real or just stereotypes. Do you really hate the French, or do you just joke about hating them? On a similar note, is there still animosity towards the Scots? No, we don't, it's all in jest with us. However, we can't say how they realistically feel about us. The Eurovision Song Contest is a strong indicator that politically we are hated, and that was even before Brexit. Are you guys worried about increasing authoritarianism or not, and if so, do you see a way out of it? Yes. Unfortunately, many younger people aren't bothered, and it's a scary thought. I'm 17 and all my peers are worried about it, but to be fair, we are politically aware, so I can't speak for young people in general. What is your favorite pudding? Yorkshire. Perfectly based, a Yorkshire with gravy. Is that good crap? Why beans on toast? Beans good. Toast good. Cheese good. HP sauce good. Eat it at any time of the day, as a snack, as a meal. Pairs with a nice cold glass of milk. It's the perfect food. How much do you guys know about and accept the horrors the British colonials did to countries like mine, India? I have heard that the British people are not taught exactly what sort of terrible things were inflicted by their ancestors the way the German people are taught about the Nazis. I feel like it's the same as most nations who have committed atrocities, which, let's be honest, is most at some stage in history, not enough. The added trouble with the UK is that it's a big list, far bigger than could actually be fit into a standard curriculum. Our history curriculum at primary, elementary, and secondary, middle school, high school-ish, mostly focuses on pre-colonial history and then World Wars I and II. Is there really a TV tax/license thing? Oh man, I thought it said opinions. Oops. So, is it true that BBQ is more like an event than a type of food in the UK? Yeah, in the summer people have BBQs with friends and family. We like to make the most of the sun. What are your thoughts on the American health system? Absolutely horrendous, like a parody of a dystopian capitalist society. What's the true reasoning for Brexit? The only reason that I've heard was something about not being obligated to take in immigrants, but I'm not 100% sure. The referendum was an absolute crapshow. The issue was, the EU wasn't something that was in the public consciousness very often, and when it was usually when one of our prime ministers was supposedly screwed over by Europe. Generally the EU was considered relatively unimportant to a large number of ordinary everyday people when they thought about the influence it had on them and the country. I don't think people realized just how intertwined we were with the EU and how much the EU did indeed affect our daily lives and took that for granted. The Remain side got their entire debate wrong as they came at it from an economic argument instead of being enthusiastic about EU membership. They didn't explain all the amazing benefits of the EU and why being in the EU is great. They just said the other side is wrong. The EU isn't great, but it's better to reform from the inside. There was no enthusiasm or catchy slogans. The Leave side of the debate was given free rein to blame all the ills of the country on the EU and immigration. The Leave side convinced people that our national sovereignty was at stake basically, and it worked. Why do you go appa-crap at football, soccer, games, while I myself have never gone appa-crap at a game, let alone a football one? I hear that vast quantities of drink are often involved in the procedure. Combine that with the fact that team fan bases have lots of pride, much like American baseball teams, and brawls are frequent. How chaotic really is the M25? It's like playing dodgems. Is there any base to the over-sophisticated caricature of the Brits? What is it like to not be afraid of going to the because it doesn't cost 6 months of rent? Edit. I regret asking. This has been so depressing. I'm glad people have access to care, but as someone financially crippled by my medical needs, this has been one of the most depressing comment threads to read through. Maybe it's time to leave the US. I can jump off a building with no worries.